Welcome to Crowning Around, where every woman wears a crown, whether she's 17 or 70. I'm Joan Caliendo, and this is the space where magic happens when women empower women. Each week, we'll dig into topics like ageism, stepping into your power, and everything in between. And today, we're kicking it all off with a queen in her own right. Me, Ms. New York Senior America.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 25. This is a big, big day for me for many, many reasons. But let me get into some of the thank yous that go along with starting episode 25, because we haven't been here in 2 weeks. So first of all, I'm entitling this episode The King of the Court, when we welcome 5-time Paralympian, 3-time gold medalist, Mr. Steve Serio, to our show. Thank you, Steve, for coming all the way here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And the crowd goes wild. So let me begin with my thank yous. First of all, America 250, could we have not had a better celebration? And New York City, God bless you. You did it right, New York City. From the tall ships along the East River, outstanding, beautiful, thank you to all the countries that participated, to the Macy's fireworks that evening. The Brooklyn Bridge never looked so good, to hosting some of the FIFA games and getting involved in all of that traffic. I think there was also a small little wedding at MSG in between. I wasn't invited. I wasn't on that list. But also we want to thank the people who really take care of this city, which are all the police officers and the fire department and the EMT. And of course, following the ticker tape parade for our Knicks, we have to thank the sanitation department, who got all of that cleaned up and ready to roll for the next event. And New York has been hopping ever since the Knicks won. So thank you to everybody, because that was just a beautiful testament to the city that we live in. Another milestone for this evening is the fact that I am celebrating my 1-year anniversary on this show. Outstanding.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yes. Even better, Bobby. Thank you. 1 year ago, I came in here thinking, I could do a podcast. I like to talk. I know interesting people. And I really had to do my homework when it came to being polished and professional and, creating questions that make sense and get my audience to know the people that, I love and appreciate that came on the show. So I've learned a lot. I hope some of you have tuned in and found your niche where you found a guest that you really could resonate with, because that's important to me. And I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate this country, celebrate the summer, and also to celebrate the theme of athletics, which I've so pushed over the years with my next guest. So we're going to go into a little bio of Mr. Steve Serio. So please get ready to watch some of the clips I've prepared. So first of all, we want you to understand that he, of course, comes from the Hamlet. And he's from Westbury, but he went to Carl Place High School. And I'd like to start with a little clip of something that really showcases Steve and his talents. So please enjoy.
Well, a month after the Olympic Games in Paris are the Paralympic Games, and one local athlete is looking to defend the gold again. Westbury, New York native Steve Serio is headed to the Paralympics for the 5th time with Team USA wheelchair basketball, and they're going for an unprecedented three-peat. Our Perry Sook has the story.
We've had some success in the recent past in Rio Paralympics and the Tokyo Paralympics, but no team has ever three-peated before, so we're trying to make history in Paris.
Steve Serio was paralyzed after spinal surgery as a toddler, but found wheelchair basketball at the age of 14 in Long Island. Long before his 2 gold medals as co-captain of Team USA in 2016 and 2020, he won a national championship with the Long Island Lightning youth basketball team in 2005. Outside Team USA, Steve has played professionally for both Germany and the New York Rolling Knicks.
Everybody sees the physical side of what it means to be a Team USA athlete, but we have one chance every 4 years to accomplish our dreams, and that takes a big mental burden. And if you have to work on your mental game just as much as your physical game in order to maximize your performance in the highest pressure of moments.
Even for the most successful athletes, there comes a time to hang it up. At 36, Steve has decided that Paris will be his final Olympics. But although he's done on the court, Steve is determined to keep making a difference in the lives of adaptive sports athletes.
The impact I can have off the court is just way more important to me now than the impact I can have on it. I've had all the success that an athlete can have wearing those 3 amazing letters across my chest. And now it's time for me to spread the awareness of adaptive sports and propel the next generation of adaptive sports athletes to dream bigger than I was able to dream when I started my journey.
But first, one final dream, a three-peat for Team USA. Perry Sook, Pix 11 Sports.
Wow. Okay? Just wow. All right? That's what we're dealing with here. I talk about royalty a lot, but this is it, guys. This is the show to watch, to understand what sacrifices and successes and accomplishments and uphill obstacles you had to face to get to where we are. And we're still starting, so don't go anywhere. Now I have to tell you that, of course, the greatest accolade for any athlete in the Olympics is to carry the flag. And that is exactly how Steve was voted, right, by his peers and fellow athletes in 2024 in Paris. So today is Bastille Day. I'm just throwing in the history. So today is France Independence Day, and I do believe the French are playing today in the World Cup.
I believe so, too.
So that's going to be quite the celebration, and we love the French. Thank you for helping us in the American Revolution. Wouldn't have been anywhere without you. So here he is, in your Ralph Lauren jacket, carrying the flag to represent our country in Paris in 2024. You know, I was Steve's U.S. history teacher. That right there gives me the chills that, you just can't comprehend that one of your students one day will represent the country in such a beautiful, admirable way. And that is the pinnacle of success right there. So that's crowning achievement. I would hang it up after that too. Where else can you go after that? So I get it. But I also wanted to show another clip because I don't want people to think that this accomplishment of wheelchair basketball is something that is quite easy, and it is quite the opposite. So in 2017, when the ESPYs voted Mr. Steve Serio as the best male athlete with a disability, which I'm thinking to myself, are they going to change that terminology now?
I don't know. I don't know if they have any plans to, but it was an honor to win that award.
Beyond. And I thought it would be great for our viewers to see a little action of, Mr. Serio dropping dimes, as they say on your Instagram account. We're Giants fans. We remember Danny Dimes, but that's a whole other story. And I say to you, please watch what goes on these courts. It's not a friendly game of basketball.
The U.S. handles that pressure perfectly fine. 10 to shoot. Serio behind the back, dropping it off for Williams. Beautiful.
What a pretty assist by Steve Serio. Exactly why it's so difficult to guard. They come out, they pressure Steve Serio, force him to pass the basketball around the back. Nice little dish to Jake Williams.
Steve Serio putting on a show for the United States.
Love it. Oh, come on now. That gives me chills as well. So I have to just say, listen, tonight is going to be a night of getting to know Steve as a professional athlete versus, his classroom activities back in the day in 2004. So we're going to start at the Queen's Court by welcoming Steve to our program and saying, thank you for flying in from Armenia, which is part of the conversation this evening, because now Steve has become an ambassador for the sport and is taking his show on the road, trying to help other athletes globally with adaptive. That's what I thought might be a better terminology for the ESPYs, but we'll get there. So welcome, Steve, and we're going to start the Queen's Court with a very, very simple question, because this was the first thing I thought of when you agreed to come on the show. When you were at school and high school, we didn't have any adaptive sports programs. We didn't even have an elevator that could get you to the second floor. We didn't have a ramp to get you into the high school in the morning. And I remember you with your crutches trying to get through the hallway, and you were exhausted by the end of the day. So my question is, how did all of these limits affect you, but how did it also teach you to grow?
Sure. Well, let me first by saying thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
having me. It's a huge honor to be a part of the anniversary show. It's absolutely the first podcast where we already talked about Danny Dimes and the French Revolution. So I just want to say that this was a wonderful connection, and I expected no less from being on here. You brought up a little bit about my history and some of the difficulties that I had when I was growing up. You know, when you're growing up with a disability, it's not easy.
No.
Everybody around you can see your differences. They can see your insecurities. And my loved ones and my friends, I was living in an able-bodied world, so I just wanted to fit in. And that did provide some hardships, some limits. But I had wonderful people around me growing up, from loved ones to educators to friends that never saw what I could do as limitations on who I was as a person or who I was as an athlete. So on one hand, it was a blessing to be able to grow up in an able-bodied world and see that I was built a little bit differently than the kids around me, but also providing a really safe space from the educators, from my family, from my loved ones, that they didn't allow me to get away with using my disability as an excuse. They saw my true potential, and that's kind of where I built the foundation of that's carried me into the person and athlete I am today.
Okay, now as a child, right, where you don't have this maturity and you don't have this sense of worldliness yet, were there times where you just were like, this is just not fair? Like, I don't have an outlet to shine.
Sure. I've always been an athlete
ever
ever since I was young. And I when I was growing up in my teenage years, I developed a lot of these insecurities around my disability. Like, would my friends continue to accept me if I can't play sports with them at a high level? As they were all getting bigger and stronger and faster, I just really couldn't keep up because of my disability. I remember having these insecurities about, like, will I ever experience the romantic side of my teenage years? Would anybody
proms?
Proms and dances. Would anyone want for me to establish that part of my life because I have a disability and I'm so different? But I was able, when I found wheelchair basketball when I was about 15 years old, my potential was unlocked. I learned that by embracing my disability, not by hiding it or being ashamed of it, but by embracing it, I was able to shatter any limitations anyone would ever try to place upon me. And I'm so grateful for those hardship, those difficult moments, because they shaped me into the person I am today.
Absolutely.
And you never want a kid to feel different, but let's be honest, every kid feels different. Every kid has insecurities.
Being a teenager and being awkward.
Mine was just a little more external than everybody else's.
Right, it was visible.
But it was something I had to deal with. It was something I had to overcome, and it's built part of my resiliency that I have today.
Amazing. Can I just ask this question, because this is the part I won't know? Did we as a district have like social workers and support people that talk to you about this?
No.
I didn't think so.
No. The best part about growing up in Carr Place was I had advocates everywhere. I had advocates on the educational side of things. Obviously, my parents were always well informed.
Yes.
My friends were always well informed. But like you said, when I started at Carr Place High School, there wasn't a wheelchair ramp to get into the building. There wasn't an elevator that I could get to the second floor. So I had to kind of figure out how to navigate this world that was not built for me. And I started high school by walking with these big clunky braces and walking with crutches and trying to carry my books. But then when I found wheelchair basketball, a whole different world was opened up to me. And I learned that even though I had to do things a little bit differently, like maybe sit in a wheelchair, it doesn't mean I'm any less than of a student or a person or an athlete. And I needed to find the adaptations that I needed to live a sustaining life.
How did you find that, Steve? How did Long Island Lightning, Lightning, how did that come to be?
This is embarrassing to say out loud, but this was before the age of social media. So I didn't know that the Long Island Lightning existed. I got hooked up with that.
I feel like I'm still there, Steve. Go ahead.
I got hooked up with that wheelchair basketball team through a physical therapist that I was working with. And I remember going down for the first time and not having any context about what the game was. And a whole world was opened up to me. I was able to ask questions from people with disabilities that have been in previous moments in their life similar to mine. I had access to different parents who also were raising their kids on Long Island, but maybe a little bit ahead of me in a few points in life in some years. So it's just a whole new world opened up, and I'm so grateful that I got a chance to experience that world, even if it was a little bit later on in my teenage years.
Absolutely. It was the key, the turning key for you to be able to express who you truly were. And this is what I loved the most. As a result of your success, you were able to go to college, right? So tell our viewers that experience, just getting into a college and continuing playing the sport that you love.
Yeah, well, before I get to my college years, I just want to tell a really quick story
Please.
about the educators.
That's what we're here for,
at Carr
Steve.
Place. We were a big hockey town growing up on Long Island, and hockey was one of those sports that I really struggled to play with because when I was walking with braces and crutches, I couldn't really hold a hockey stick and move at the same time.
Right.
But one of the examples of how the educators never really took my disability for granted, they never let me use it as an excuse. Mr. Moran, our PE teacher, I remember going into PE class one day, and without being prompted by anything, he kind of told me, "Hey, I built you a piece of equipment." And I was like, "That's so weird. Like, what do you mean you built me a piece of equipment? Like, I didn't ask you to. Like I didn't know what this was." And we were playing hockey in PE class, and he had strapped like a hockey blade onto this separate crutch that he was using. And it was a story that like I'll always remember because I didn't ask him to do that. I didn't ask to for him to make that modification for me, but like people took such initiative in my success, and he saw that like I was athletic. I wanted to be out there with my friends playing in PE class, and he was just like, this is what he needs. And I'll never forget playing hockey in PE class that very first time with my friends, standing up, being able to move about the court, but also being able to play hockey with this like little hockey crutch that he made me.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I do think that he had some history or context of doing some adaptive phys ed when he was in Maryland.
Yeah.
Because, he was my student as well, because this is how it goes there at Carr Place. But that's a fabulous story.
It's just a perfect example how people on Long Island, we don't limit ourselves. We have some hard times. We go through difficult moments, but we never settle for what's right in front of us. We always see the world as it could be. And I'll always remember that story and be very grateful for him for just being that like small point of contact in my life. But to get to your question about college, so I didn't know when I first started playing wheelchair basketball, I didn't know that wheelchair basketball was played at the university level. And after a year or two playing at juniors here on Long Island, I got the chance to attend the University of Illinois on a full athletic scholarship.
Did everybody hear that?
For an adaptive sports athlete.
Also a smart student, though. Let's just be honest.
I did.
You did well.
I did okay.
You did well.
But it was, again, it was a world that opened up to me. I'm so grateful for that opportunity that wheelchair basketball allowed me to attend this Big Ten college and continue to grow both on and off the court.
And how successful were you there?
We won a few national championships there.
A few.
Yes, we had some success, but college to me was never about success. It was about growing both on and off the field of play. I continued with my studies. I'm very proud of my degree in exercise science and gerontology. I hope to go into research one day and use that degree to help benefit the adaptive sports community. But yeah, it was just my opportunity to grow both on and off the court. And I'm so grateful for those 4 years.
And how was it going away from home and all the
It was
support
hard.
that you had here? Yeah, sure.
It was the first time I ever saw a cow was when I stepped onto campus at the University of Illinois. It was
a life changer.
It was a different type of experience. But again, it was just something that allowed me to step out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
It allowed me to get away from the
To grow up.
foundation of Carr Place and kind of grow up in a way that felt safe and comfortable, but also pushed my boundaries a bit.
Love that. Okay, so there you go. That's success number one at a very young age. But I hope you're all hearing that not only did we believe in him 100%, but he found the way to believe in himself. And that's something that I think a lot of teenagers struggle with, whatever their strength is, whether it's art or music or dance or sports or academics. People that believe in you, this is the beauty of teaching, really, really, really make that grow for you. And it's a beautiful thing. That's why I've had so many students on, because these are real success stories from a tiny little hamlet that has, less than 4,000 people in it, but the successes are, monumental. So we'll move on and just start with some of his journey post-college. So Steve has been, all over the world, and he has learned many life lessons. And there's so many that you could probably, put in a jar and say, this is what taught me how to do this, or made me a better man, or a better student, or a better husband. But I'm asking you to narrow it down to 3.
Sure.
So 3 life lessons that, somebody viewing today might say, it's not even that I have a disability. I'm always the last person picked for sports, or, I'm not the person that fits in an all jock kind of high school, and so what are the life lessons, 3, that you think from traveling the world and seeing things in a different light, you would say are probably the 3 that stand out the most?
Yeah, that is not an easy question
No.
because I've learned a lot over the course of my lifetime and my career. The first thing that comes to mind is everything that I've learned from hardship, and I've learned from difficult situations. Okay. So early on in my life, learning how to deal with my disability, learning how to be different in an able-bodied world, learning how to embrace those differences and not hide away from it is what pushed me into wheelchair basketball. Obviously, I've been a Team USA athlete for a number of years, and it's an honor to be able to call myself a 3-time Paralympic gold medalist. But we lost the first 2 Paralympics that I competed in, and I wouldn't be a 3-time Paralympic gold medalist if I didn't learn the lessons early on in my career that I was not successful in. So whenever I talk to mainly kids with disabilities, I always tell them to don't avoid the hardships, don't avoid the hard times, don't avoid the failures, because those are the things that will propel you to learn and to grow both on and off the fields of play.
True.
So that's absolutely the first lesson that I think.
So failure is something that you take away some sort of a lesson from.
I've only learned in life through failure.
Through failure.
I haven't learned anything through my successes.
Which takes a strong core, okay? Not everybody can do that because a lot of people would recoil and say, you know what? Woe is me, and life is hard, and this is really, really hard. So that's something I'm glad you're saying very much so out loud, because that's something people need to hear. Pick yourself up, let's go, keep going.
I talk to a lot of wheelchair basketball athletes, and I always remind them that if you're in a gym where you continuously win over and over again, you're in the wrong gym. You have to find gyms where you continuously fail and learn and be around people who are better than you so that you have the opportunity to grow.
So as Giants fans, we understand.
We're ready. We are ready for those successes because we've been through some weird years.
Luke and I, his brother, would always be like, "Today's the no." Okay. Yep. Every Monday we were like, "No, all right."
Well, Nixon 5. So we've had our successes.
Redemption here in New York. Okay, number 2, life lesson.
Number 2 is a lot of people expect change or positive things to happen quickly in this world, and we're preconditioned to that, right? In the age of social media, in the age of swiping, we always expect things are going to happen fast. Or
instant gratification.
I can promise you the most meaningful things in my life that I've changed have happened slowly. Small wins over a long period of time lead to significant change. And it's a hard lesson to learn in this day and age when you can get anything delivered on Amazon in 12 hours, and that provides a lot of relief for some people. But for me, all the change, the positive change that has happened in my life has happened slowly over a long period of time, where you can build those habits, you can rebuild your foundation, you can rebuild your core in a positive way. So when I think about some of the lessons I like to learn, I like to remind, especially like I said, kids that, hey, this change that you want to happen or this success that you're going after, it's not going to happen right away. It's going to happen slowly, and embrace the journey. Don't worry so much about the destination.
Hard for kids.
Yep. It's really hard.
Kids.
And for adults too. I'm
just thinking to myself, if you keep winning in the gym that you're in the wrong gym. That's hard for a competitive person, and you're a very competitive person.
Yep.
Interesting. That's a good point. The other thing I'm hearing from your answers is you are saying to children that may not have had the support around them that you felt, things that are hard to process.
Yep.
kids are just not capable of understanding that there's a bigger picture than right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get to go to the prom. You know, this is really hard going through the halls in the wheelchair. Everybody's going to the pool party next week, and it's not easy for me to even get in the water.
Nope.
You know, these are big things. So I hear what you're saying. That must be so powerful for you to look at those children and say, I've been there, and like, this is the message.
There's so much I would love to go back and tell my younger self.
Oh, sure.
And honestly, the thing that I would say, if I could only tell him one thing, it's that, hey, everything's going to be okay. Like, you don't have all the answers. You don't have everything figured out.
Right.
This part of life is difficult. It
is.
is challenging. But if you continue to progress forward and you continue to just try to get to tomorrow, everything is going to be okay. You will figure it out. And I wholeheartedly believe that everybody has the capacity to be whoever they want to be, but it takes some people longer. Some people have life figured out early on. I had friends that just felt like high school was the best years and so easy.
They
I don't know if
peaked in high school.
I don't like to think that
Not
they
a good
peaked
thing.
early, but I do like to think back and been like, wow, they had some wonderful years. Those years were hard for me.
Those were
and
hard. College got better for you.
College got better for me. And by the end of high school, when I found the sport that changed my life, I felt more confident as a person. But there were some difficult years, and I would never change those difficult years. But I would like to tell my younger self,
Be kind to yourself.
it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
course.
Oh, I fully understand what you're saying. I'm also thinking to myself, when you won the national championships at the college level, is that when the USA people started to look at you and say, hey, how about trying out for, the Paralympics?
Yeah, I made my first Team USA when I was in college. I was
you
a
did?
sophomore in college, and that actually leads me to my last lesson that
Okay,
I would
perfect.
like to announce. I was not born a leader. I was always one of the more talented athletes on the team, but the leader that I became later on in my career was something that I had to develop, and I had to learn those lessons the hard way. And I'll never forget when I became a good leader was when I realized that true leadership is not about doing. At that level on Team USA, doing or performing is just a prerequisite. Everybody is talented. Everybody can
Right.
perform. But true leadership is about creating an environment where those around you feel empowered and inspired to be the best versions of themselves. So when I was growing up, I grew up in the age of like Michael Jordan. You throw the ball to your
GOAT.
best player and you know
Yeah.
he or she goes to win the game for the team.
Right.
But that never worked for me, especially early on in my Team USA career. So I had to develop into a different type of leader, a leader that created a team that we built everybody up, not just me as one of the more talented athletes or one of my teammates who was just as talented. Learning that lesson of, hey, if you want to be a leader, it's about how everybody else around you is being built up. That was a really important lesson for me to learn, and it was one that I only learned in my Team USA career later on in life.
Interesting. So this is another thing that I'm thinking of. So when you are competing to earn a spot on Team USA, the role that you play is probably very vital for selection.
Sure.
So I'm guessing, if you're the sharpshooter or you're the point guard, I saw that you wore number 11, right?
Of course.
Jalen.
Of course. I was first, though. I just want to say that out loud. But
Because he's young.
Yes.
I'm thinking, not that you're old, but I'm thinking to myself, like, you probably went in there with the thought process that if I just shoot the lights out of this ball, they're going to pick me, and that's going to be my job, the sharpshooter. But what I'm hearing you say now is I learned that my role was to make everyone around me a better player. And I saw some of your razzle-dazzle moves, passing behind the back and, spins and all these like almost acrobatic moves. And even when we saw you, we had the parade for you at Carl Place, and I had the cheerleaders, and everybody was so excited. You've always had a humbleness about you, right? And when you said you weren't a natural born leader, I would say definitely in the classroom, and you went along with the flow. You were that guy.
Yes.
And I would say similarly for Luke. Luke was a very talented football player, but he wasn't the guy that was, pounding his chest and being very, loud. That's your upbringing. Congratulate your parents.
Yes.
They did a very good job. So I say that I think what I'm hearing from you is the retrospectiveness of being a humble person really favored you.
I can say that that's absolutely true. And I
Right.
think that that goes back to the foundation that was created with me in Car Place,
Yeah.
with all the selflessness that I was given from all the educators and my loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
It was never truly just about me. It was about us. It was about our community. It was
Yeah.
about the fact that Car Place succeeded when one of us succeeded.
Yeah.
It was about creating an environment where people at Car Place can feel inspired, not just from my successes, but from the Car Place team's successes as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And it's a lesson I wish I learned and took with me early on in my Team USA career, because maybe we would have had a little bit more success early on.
Damn it.
But it was a lesson that I learned. And now let's just say that if you go to a tryout for a team, the quickest way to make that team is not necessarily to perform yourself. It's to make everybody else around you better, because that's what defines a great teammate. That's what
Right.
defines a great athlete. It's what defines a great leader.
Yes. Agreed.
You can just see, like, of course, Jalen is going to perform, right? Like, that's what makes
without
him
Josh
special.
Hart.
But he lifts everybody up around him on the
Yes.
court, and that's what I love most about Jalen. And just
Yeah.
watching their run was really incredible.
Yeah, all of them. We were so impressed with their behavior on and off the court.
Yep.
Right? You could really root for those guys.
Yep.
Those, like, people hate New York. We get it. But I don't know how you're in LA now. That must have been a tough pill to swallow.
It was.
for people in LA, right?
It was hard to be so far away from home. My favorite team
I
is having so
know.
much success. But let's just be honest, the party made its way to LA. So
I'm sure it
Yeah.
had to. I'm just thinking of, I said this on the previous show, those guys were so easy to root for, even if you weren't a Knicks fan, because the way they carried themselves, right? And it was a supportive unit, Josh Hart, the Villanova connection, we get it. Of
course.
But he was like an unsung hero to me, doing all the dirty work. And then Brunson, who's not the biggest guy out there, handled it beautifully. And then, we could talk about basketball all day, but I'm just saying, I'm hearing what you're saying, and it makes tremendous sense to me that I would say most people picked the Spurs at the beginning of the series, and, that alien.
well, they
French
had one of the
guy.
best players. He's going to go down as probably one of the best players to ever play. I mean, he really is an unbelievable
Freak
talent.
of nature,
Yeah,
yes.
So I understand those people, but it was just a team that lifted
It was
everybody
a
up.
team which is what you're saying, which
Yes.
is why you got to the gold eventually, because
Absolutely.
you changed your role. And I love that you just said that, because it reminds me of the Knicks. And I heard you say you play in Europe, right? But you also play for a team that's called something with the Knicks.
Yeah, so all the professional leagues in wheelchair basketball during the year when you're not playing on Team USA, all the
Okay.
professional leagues are playing in Europe.
In
So
Europe,
I lived
okay.
in Germany and Spain Germany and Italy for a number of years playing professionally. When you come back to the States, you have to play for your closest team. So when I moved back from Europe and I moved to Brooklyn, I was playing with the Knicks and played with them for a number of years, won a few national championships, and then moved back out to LA with my wife a couple of years ago.
How's LA?
She knows that I'm a little out of place.
She's from LA.
She's originally from Chicago,
Okay.
but she spent her 20s and early 30s out in California, so she
Okay.
feels very connected to Los Angeles.
Sure.
I developed a little bit of New Yorkers in LA that we all
Found
kind of
them.
feel like we're a fish at a pond. But you know what? Los Angeles is beautiful. It's the right place for our chapter currently. We
Good.
don't know maybe what's next, but for right now, we're both very happy.
Okay. And the basketball there is good, the wheelchair basketball?
Wheelchair basketball has a wonderful community in Los
Okay.
Angeles, and they're hosting the next Olympic and Paralympic Games in
I
2028.
saw that.
So
But
there's
you're hanging it up? You're not
I
gonna-
am.
All right,
I am.
Steve.
I'm sorry.
I know. Tell us, how's that decision?
It honestly, it was never truly a hard decision. I have accomplished everything I've wanted to accomplish
Yes.
on the field of play.
Go
and
out on the
now
top.
The impact I can have off the court is more important to me now. So having more of a touch point in the community, meeting new athletes, bringing wheelchair basketball around the globe, and sharing the impact that it's had on my life is what's most important to me now. The men's wheelchair basketball team is currently playing in a practice tournament up in Toronto right now,
Okay.
and I've been following along. I've been watching. They're going through their ups and downs, but they're in a great position to be successful in LA. And I know that even though I won't be on the court with them, I'll be supporting them from the sidelines.
Any coaching aspirations?
I don't know if I have the skill set to coach. Coaching and playing are two different skills, and I don't know if I've developed the ability to be really close to the court,
Patient.
but not really on it, you know. And I don't know if I have that ability, but we don't put limits on life. Maybe one day down the road I'll get into coaching, but for right now, I love what I'm doing, just building out the awareness and sharing the impact.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Steve just returned from Armenia, where he was doing his part almost like an ambassador, right, for the United States to, talk to children and athletes about adaptive sports. And, in a section of the world that really, we were speaking about this before we came on camera, it's not normal to see people rolling around in the streets in their wheelchair, and the exposure was such a positive thing for him in a section of the world that not only in a sports arena, it's just not a norm. So that's where he's channeling his energies now. And you said that was very rewarding for you, right?
It was an incredibly rewarding experience. Like you said, I had never been to that part of the world, so I wasn't totally aware of all the history and the place that disability has in those societies. Being there with another Team USA athlete named Rose Hollerman, we got a chance to experience what life is like in those cities as someone with a disability. We got stared at a lot. We got kind of, nobody really pointed, but everybody, you could just tell, was not very used to seeing someone with a disability live their life, go out and about to cafes and restaurants and stuff like that. So we had a wonderful opportunity to not only bring the sport of wheelchair basketball to those cities, but to also help change the perception of what it means to have a disability. There's no impact that's too great or too small when you have a disability, and it was just a very rewarding experience to be a part of that State Department Sport Envoy program.
And you can see yourself doing more of that in the future, right?
I hope so. Like I said, it was an incredibly rewarding situation, and there's people with disabilities all around the world. So I hope to have other experiences like that moving forward. We have a lot of work to do here in this country as well, so my work really never stops. But as long as I can share the impact that wheelchair basketball has had on me, and we can make this world just a little bit more inclusive, just a little bit better for people who feel like they're different, that's the reason why I wake up every day.
Yeah, I mean, even just simple conveniences to allow people to get to point A and B.
Sure.
Really, things we take for granted as able-bodied citizens. You know what is a question that I've thought of often, and now that you're on the other side of participating as an athlete, your gift is now to send the message to people that this is not something that can limit you. It's something that you can achieve success from. Is it harder for an athlete who became disabled versus an athlete who was born disabled?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question and a very insightful question. When you're born with a disability, or I had my accident very early on in life, that transition is a little bit easier for me because I don't know what it's like to play basketball standing up. I don't know what it's like to be an able-bodied athlete. But for people who go through that transition later on in life, it really is a whirlwind of an experience because life is different. Life is not the same as before your accident or before your illness. And continuing to accept that while also trying to rebuild this new life is a challenge for a lot of people. One of the places where wheelchair basketball or any adaptive sports can fit into that is, yes, even though you have to do things a little bit differently, you can still play sports. You're still an athlete. You can still do the things that you always love to do, even if you have to do them just a little bit differently. Not a lot of people understand the differences of acquiring their disability later on in life, unless you have experienced that somewhat in your life, whether it's yourself or a loved one. But that is a key and very instinctive difference that people have to really deal with. It's not any better or less than. It's just a very different transition that people have to make.
Yeah, and I would say that that's something that you are going to be able to deal with, right, in the future. And that's an important distinction, I think. You know, I've seen all the stories when they do the retrospectives and they do the clips of, you know, the athletes in the Paralympic Games, and I think people automatically assume that this has been their norm since they're born, but a lot of the times it's an illness, it's an accident, it's a tragedy, and how you deal with it is very separate and different, and how you overcome, your mindset, right?
Sure. I mean, think about the transition I went through. I grew up in an able-bodied world, and I always felt other. I always felt different than everybody else around me. And it wasn't until I found my community or a different world that I felt was able to unlock my true potential, both on and off the field of play, where I was able to develop my self-confidence. And everybody has to go through that journey. Everybody has to go through that discovery to find where their place is in this world. But the only thing that is bad is if you stop looking. Like everybody continuously has to progress, and you just never give up. And I have a couple of people in my life that have gone through that transition really later on in life, and they go through ups and downs every day, thinking about what they've lost. But they've also gained a lot. I get a chance to talk to kids in different school districts, and kids always ask the best questions because there's no filter.
No filter.
But one of the ways that I attribute my wheelchair, my disability is like, this is the thing that makes me unique. This is my superpower. This is the thing that makes me memorable. And when I sit in my wheelchair basketball chair, it's like Iron Man getting into his Iron Man suit. It makes me special. It makes me my Team USA athlete. Right. And it's a way that we can kind of reframe disability as like not just something that we've lost, or not just focusing on the things that we can't do anymore, but look at the things that we do have, and look at the things that we can do, and look at the way that you're special now. So it's just a little reframe that people with disabilities always kind of have on their back pocket. But yes, those transitions are difficult.
I fully understand what you're saying. All right, I'm having such a good time that we're not going to stop for a commercial break. We're just going to go into the third question, which I thought long and hard about, because, I'm on the other side of teaching now, my superpower. And it's been wonderful, because now I can look back in retrospective and say, I really made a difference in people's lives, and that was always important to me. So I thought about this quote, and I said, let me ask Steve how he feels about this. So if greatness is measured by the lives we inspire, and, people will say a lot of things about, the income is really what is supposed to measure greatness. And I've always said it's always about the outcome, not the income. Most teachers would say that. But I want to know from you, if greatness is measured by the lives we inspire, what's your take on that?
So when I think about that specific quote, first off, I agree. I don't necessarily think that greatness is about a destination. I don't think greatness is about winning a successful game, or landing a successful job, or anything like that. It really is a journey.
It's a journey.
And so as an educator, right, there's no destination. Maybe it's to get to the summer break every year.
Yes, it is, Steve.
But it's really about having this collection of students that you've impacted over the course of your entire career.
Right.
And that I relate deeply to that, because there's always going to be athletes with disabilities that need a little bit of mentorship and need a little guidance, and that's what wakes me up in the morning, is to know that I can be a resource for countless of people in the adaptive sports community to empower and inspire them to demand more from this life. And if there's one amazing thing about education, is you all have taught us how to think. You've taught us how to reflect. You've taught us how to grow as students and as people. And that's the way I approach athletics. So when I think about greatness is in the amount of lives that you've impacted, I don't look at that as like a number. I look at that as a journey. I relate deeply to that journey.
I love that. Okay, so here we are at the point called the Tiara Tip of the Week, where we try to leave you with something from our guest that is inspiring, or something that you can attach yourself to. So you've had so many accolades, you've had so many achievements, but to date, can you pick one?
So while I think about that, you brought up accolades. I did bring one accolade with me, and I did want you to just experience what holding a gold medal from the Paris Paralympics is like. So please.
Steve, thank you.
Yes,
Ooh.
I know it's the first reaction that catches everybody off guard of how heavy it is.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful.
Yep.
Well earned.
Yep.
And on Bastille
Thank
Day.
Thank you. I know.
This is
I know.
perfect timing. We didn't really read into that, but
The stars aligned.
The stars aligned. I mean, yeah, this is it.
Yeah,
This is it. This
it's a
is
special
it. And knowing
accolade.
that you walked in and rolled your way down that area to get with the flag and listen to the Star Spangled Banner while you were given that medal, that has to be.
It's a chilling moment to think about that I was a part of something so special
Yeah.
with all of my teammates, all of
Yeah.
my loved ones wearing those 3 amazing letters. It's the dream come true for any athlete. But I will say, getting back to your question, I don't think it's as much of an accolade, but I can tell you that there was a fork in the road moment for me in my life. And that moment was the day that I found wheelchair basketball. It wasn't the day that I brought home gold medals. It wasn't the championships I've won. It wasn't the teams that I've been a part of. The most impactful moment of my life was the day that I found wheelchair basketball. It was the day that I found my community. It was the day that I found my self-confidence. So when I think about accolades, we always think about successes, external successes, awards,
trophies.
Exactly. But the most impactful day was that day where I was able to believe in myself, believe that I had everything I need to be successful inside. So I didn't give myself an accolade that day. It was just something that unlocked my true potential as an athlete and as a person. And that's what I hope to give back to the community. It's not about an external reward. It was all internally based.
That's it. Okay, so there you go. You're going to find your North Star is really the message. And some people say it's not where you start, it's where you finish. But he's actually saying it's where I started.
Yep.
That made the biggest difference in my life. And I love that for my viewers to understand, especially teenagers who sometimes are not following stars. They're following peers and maybe going in the wrong direction. And that's another show. So here we are wrapping everything up. There is, no way I can say better things about my guests, but I do want to just say that our small school district had great achievers. And next week we're going to have another example of a person that achieved greatness. But I just want to say that we have a wall of fame, a hall of fame at Carr Place High School. And it started back in 1955 when the school opened. And we have tremendous athletes, female and male athletes that are up on that wall. But we've never had an Olympian. We had a Super Bowl winner, right? Mr. Matt Snell, who recently passed away. And we got a beautiful gold football from the NFL commemorating the 50th anniversary of the NFL. And Matt really hasn't been back to the school district the way we would have liked him to come back and inspire. But Steve has always come back, right? And talked to the kids in the community. And they're not kids that look like Steve. He just gave the message that he gave to all of you today on the show, that this is my words of inspiration. And we can all, right? We can all, definitely, I'm going to get emotional. We can all learn from that. So I have to say, I'm humbled by your stories. I'm humbled by your successes. I'm humbled by your abilities. But I really just want to say thank you for taking the time today to come, because this was so great. I hope for both of us, right? Because he was away and it was hard to get him here, and we were going to do a Zoom, but this is priceless. So I say thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and sharing my story and everything that you're doing.
Wonderful. So now we're going to talk about who's coming up next, and Steve happens to know this young man, on our next show, which will be July 28th. We have a scholar and a gentleman, Mr. Charlie Wang, who graduated in 2007. Steve is 2005. Charlie is a graduate of MIT, and he came also from humble beginnings. His parents were immigrants to this country, and he started in Carr Place in a way that he put academics ahead of everything. He loves the arts. He definitely was a musician, and he's, very cultured. But he knew that success was going to come from academics because his parents really set the tone for that. And he and his brother Richard excelled, as you would expect, as valedictorians from the school district. And he turnkeyed that to start for his business career in a small company you may have heard of called Google. and moved out to San Francisco in its inception. From there, he's parlayed that into a career at Spotify, and currently, because I just had the pleasure of meeting him at the 20th reunion, which was Game 5 of the Knicks, he works for Meta. And we got into a conversation, and what his job is today, which I find super enriching, is he is trying to figure out ways to not have young people become addicted to social media. Wow.
It's really powerful.
And, he's a math, science, algorithm kind of guy. I don't think that way. But he also thinks on the other side of his brain as well, which I asked him to send me his bio so that I could introduce him this evening. And he sent me a whole series of bullets talking about lessons I've taught him in AP US history about how to be a critical thinker and definitely to be open-minded. And we would debate, the two of us, we would take opposing views historically, and it just made the class that much more richer. And we're going to continue those debates when he comes on the show on the 28th. But I just wanted you to understand that we're doing great things in our schools. And these are great young men and great young women that I've had on the show. And I hope that you have all taken the time to embrace the words that they're saying, because it's valuable stuff. So as I say, good evening. Let's include some relief from the heat with these hot days of July. Let's keep cool. And we're going to continue to tell you the tales of successes from the tiny hamlet of Carl Place, which turned out some great people.
I love that.
Love it too. Okay, so thank you so much for viewing, and I'll see you on the 28th.
Thanks, everyone.